This program is rated SPG. It contains scenes with themes, language, violence, sex, horror, or drugs, which may not be suitable for children. Strong parental guidance is advised.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Idol IV in Action. For today's topic, we'll tackle diverse perspectives about a 24-year-old Adamson University student that passed away because of hazing.
This is CNN Breaking News.
The events of February 17 are still fresh on Joffrey Salilig's mind. From Zamboanga, Mr. Salilig flew to Manila to attend a convention. His sons John Matthew and John Michael picked him up at the airport, had a meal with him, and dropped him off in Cavite for the event. On February 28, 10 days after Matt went missing, his remains were found in a shallow grave in Imus, Cavite. The 24-year-old student of Adamson University died of blunt force trauma in the lower extremities after undergoing welcoming rites of the Tau Gamma Phi fraternity. Matt's family says the anti-hazing law should be amended to impose heavier penalties on violators. Mr. Salilig says schools should also be held accountable. Cian Arcangel, CNN, Philippines.
Our guests today are people who are affected by this issue. First, to hear from the victim's side, we have Mrs. Reyes, the mother of the victim, to hear her sentiments. Next, a true thought leader, Mayor Napoles. Third, a highly respected attorney, Ms. Acebedo, to help us understand legal concerns about this issue. Next, Ms. Anton, a professor of Adamson University that will speak on behalf of the school. And lastly, Mr. Caburnay, the fraternity representative and spokesperson. Mrs. Reyes, can you share with us your son's personality as well as how do you feel about your son's passing because of hazing?
As a parent of a hazing victim who tragically lost his life during the fraternity's welcoming rites, let me share the story of my son, John Matthew, and the story why behind he joined the group. My son, John Matthew, was a bright and ambitious young man who had always excelled in education and sports. He is always eager to make new friends and to become part of a community that shared his interests and values. That is why he joined fraternity during his college. At first, everything seemed great. He was welcomed with open arms and felt like he had already found a group like-minded individuals. However, during the fraternity's welcoming rites, he was subjected to brutal hazing rituals, which is not only inhumane but also life-threatening. Despite his pleas for mercy, the members of the fraternity continued to put him through a series of degraded tests, which ultimately results to his untimely death. And as a parent, I am broken beyond words. No one parent should ever have to bury their own child because of someone else's recklessness. With this, I seek justice not only for my son John Matthew, but also to other people who is also a victim of fraternity's hazing.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today, knowing that this would be a sensitive topic for you. So, may we ask Attorney Acebedo about some legal issues and concerns about hazing?
Good morning, Your Honor. So, the victim is a mandant that he is not involved in hazing activity and has no knowledge in such activity. So, the hazing incident occurred at a college frat party, and the victim attended the party but not participated in the said activity. Now, he has no knowledge about the activity that may have been taking place at the party. And also, he is a law-abiding citizen who is respected in the community and a college student who is in a good standing. And because of his lack of knowledge about the activity and as well as his lack of involvement, that the activity may have been occurred at the party.
Thank you so much, Attorney. But if I may ask, Attorney, knowing that there is this welcoming rights and verbal consent from the victim, can we still hold the suspect liable to his or her action that results to the passing of the victim?
So the victim is facing charges in hazing, but we maintain that there is no evidence to suggest that the victim is guilty of any wrongdoing. So the suspect of the hazing provides or gives a verbal consent to the victim or about the activity, and the said activity was part of their traditional welcoming rites. So the verbal consent was an informed choice, and the victim will be held responsible for the consequences of the consent, and he has the opportunity to opt out the activities but still choose to participate.
Thank you so much, Attorney. In line with this, Professor Anton, is your school aware about your students joining fraternities?
So, okay, as we all know that hazing involves risk and pain or harm. So, as a professor, I am aware, and our school is aware, but we did not encourage our students to join or participate the said fraternity because it will harm the students, and this can contribute abusive campus climate and negative publicity, and also the students' attrition. So, knowing hazing, this can threaten the health and safety of the students, and this can even be deadly.
Thank you so much, Professor. We cannot just conclude from the one side of the story, so we have here Mr. Caburnay to explain the stand of the fraternity.
Thank you, Miss Ivy, for inviting me in this talk show, and thank you for the audience in staying and listening to our sides. And of behalf of the council, I am a spokesperson of a certain fraternity. And we all know that when a member enters a fraternity, he or she will not only benefit from the brotherhood, but also for the disaster and financial supports, educational supports, and of course, the protection in the fraternity. But however, we all know that our fraternity is undoubtedly against the hazing, because we all know in the fact that in 2018 there's a revised law about anti-hazing, and we all know that the punishment is a reclusion perpetua, which is an in lifetime imprisonment, and that is why we are against. But sadly, some of our members still observe the traditional hazing because they observe the patriotism in the fraternity. This includes the 7-person blows with each 10 ritual swings, and we all know that because it is to test their loyalty and to test their masculinity, because if a new member enters our fraternity, we don't want weak members, because if you are weak, your resolve is weak. And also, it is a common terms in a fraternity that when we are gathered everywhere, the common topic of the fraternity is on how they survive the rituals or the hazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caburnay. We have here our mayor. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today. If I may ask, what can you say about implementing Hazing Act like Mr. Caburnay's group?
So we are already condemning this hazing incident, and our police officers are intensifying their jobs on catching these people who are involved in hazing. Looking at the enacted law last 2018, it is one of the strictest anti-hazing laws in the world. Our law on hazing is very strict, so why do we still have these incidents? So in our analysis, we can say that the efforts of our government in the fight against hazing is still lacking. These people are not punished accordingly, so they are still not afraid of doing it. Also, these fraternities are not doing their jobs to avoid hazing.
So thank you so much, Mayor. And you are saying that this law is very strict when it comes to hazing. So what should the government do or improve to solve these kind of problems?
What's important is someone should be punished or imprisoned, because in my research, there is a similar hazing case that was in 2017, and still, up to today, they are still conducting hearings. So the government should make this process faster Because if this continues, these people will be confident that they will not be imprisoned easily and that they can escape the punishment. Another is that it is not only the government, the schools and the universities should also do their jobs because most cases of hazing involve students who are enrolled in school. And the law mandated that schools should conduct orientation or briefing about fraternities every start of the semester to all students. And as I know, this school did not do it. So they are still liable because they failed to do their job.
Thank you so much for that, Mayor. Professor, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, the school will not held liable of students joining fraternity because it is not school supported and it is out of school organization. And we don't tolerate students to apply fraternity. So, Mayor, we always conduct an orientation on briefing about fraternity in the beginning of semester. So we assume that all students know and understand about the fraternities and the consequences about it. But still, some students enter fraternity just for the benefits they can get and the longing for the brotherhood and sisterhood, even though they know about the consequences to it. So yes, there are benefits, but it will be useless if they died because of hazing. So that's why we don't encourage students to enter fraternities.
Now that you've heard different perspective about this issue, Mrs. Reyes, what kind of accountability should the fraternity have in their role of the incident?
I am dismayed that this fraternity continues to condone hazing and other dangerous practices despite of the consequences that they may have. As a leader of a fraternity, you have the responsibility to create a culture of safety, respect, and inclusivity. This means taking a firm stand against hazing and other dangerous practices and actively promoting positive and healthy behaviors among others. I urge you to take a hard look at your organization and the harm that it caused, so no other parents can experience the same heartbreak that I have. I implore you to make necessary changes and stop the hazing once and for all to commemorate my son's memory.
We are very sorry for your loss, Matt, and we can't imagine what you're going through right now, but we are here to support you, and also your son will be remembered not just by his family but also by his friends and to those people that your son has done good. He will always be remembered. So, Mr. Caburnay, any last statements?
In behalf of our Council of the Fraternity, I am here to extend our apologies for the sufferings of your son since he experienced an unthankful tragedy in our fraternity. But also we are extending our support to you and we are making our best to lessen the hazing incidents in our fraternity, and we will observe a 0% hazing so that for the future members there will be no deaths in the future members that will enter our fraternity. And I hope this message will also be an important lesson for the other fraternities that will observe still the hazing or the traditional rituals in the Philippines. So once again, I am very sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Caburnay, for letting us do this talk show with you. We appreciate your courage. But however, to avoid biases, we still need to have the last statements from our lawyer for the last possible legal findings.
So as a lawyer representing the fraternity and the parent of the victim, based on the evidence presented, it can be concluded that the fraternity was negligent in not taking adequate action to protect its members from the hazing activity and as well as failed to provide a proper oversight of their members, likely contributed to the victim's injuries. And at the same time, the parent of the victim should also bear some responsibility for not taking adequate supervision to ensure the safety of their child and as well as fail to provide or to monitor their child's activity. And as a result, the child was exposed to dangerous situation. So ultimately, both parties should be held liable of their actions in this case and should be held to account for their negligence.
Thank you so much, attorney. Now we've come to an end of our another episode, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. To our viewers and audience, it is your time to make your own stance. And our guests have presented already different perspectives regarding these issues, and it's your time to make your own opinions. To our guests, to our viewers, and to our audience, thank you for staying with us until the end of this episode. Again, this is Idol Ivy in action.
Idol ko, idol ng mga Pilipino, my one and only idol. Ikaw ang idol ko.
Masama yung tingin sa akin ng mga tao. Kasi nga, ba't daw ako naninira ng gamit? Anong dahilan?
Huwag nang kaaway nga tayo, di ba?
Oo nga, kasi nalaman ko.